fucking go! You're listening to Bread and Circuses.
Was like the mob media, for one, is the entire world populated. Like everybody's on Twitter. Fucking the UK is on Twitter. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
unfortunately.
With Caleb Salvatore.
Well, they can't go to the comedy shows because there's a 2-drink minimum, and you can't mix the Percocet you've been stealing from work with liquor.
And Nick Kohler.
There literally be people in the fucking 80s that didn't know that nutting in a girl would make her pregnant.
No one's asked that question. What did those families do to provoke Alex Jones like that?
You know what'll solve all of these racial police protests? A Pepsi. Oh man, we got shit to talk about, dude. Oh,
I know, right? Like the NBA Summer League. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, who's that dweeby looking fucking white guy that plays for OKC that's like tearing shit up over there right now?
Oh, is he?
And then fucking LaMelo
I know
Ball.
Boston's in the. Oh, their brother, the third brother. They're like, no one's heard of the middle one. Yeah, the middle.
He's the oldest one. Lonzo's the middle one.
Oh, well, whatever he is, he's the worst.
Yeah, he is the worst because he's the oldest one. So
yeah, no shit.
He's still good. I think he's good enough to make an NBA roster, though, as like a fucking third stringer or something.
I think he's kind of a head case, if I remember right. That's like
he's just inconsistent. He's not.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that had that thing happen where he was like shoplifted in China.
Yeah, and Trump saved him or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hate to be him. But Boston's like in the championship of it tonight or whatever.
Hey, Bread and Circuses, everybody.
We'll start it here. All right. You want to start it real quick?
we already started it, man.
All right. What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome to Bread and Circuses.
We're just casually talking about some sports, and then we're gonna shift over right to fucking us losing the Afghani war, dude.
So can we extend the Vietnam vet memes to the Afghanistan vet memes? Or
we have to now, man.
There you go, boys. Losing again.
I will say, as a generation, though, our generation did win in Iraq twice, actually.
Fair, yeah.
We did completely fuck the ISIS off, and then
ISIS you don't hear about anymore.
No, they don't exist anymore. Really. Yeah. They're like confounded to like somebody's basement. Just so, hey.
Here's my question, and I'm not hip to Middle Eastern politics, right? So I feel like I speak for the majority of the people out there that listen to this show and everywhere else when I ask, why was the blueprint for defeating ISIS not able to be replicated with the Taliban? Because like you said, we took care of ISIS the United States took care of ISIS fairly quick, right? The Taliban, it's the same concept. It's a group of guerrilla fighters in the Middle East, right? It's a religious extremists and fundamentalists. They go out and they recruit in the local areas. Why were they not as easy to defeat?
Two big differences. One, Iraq. So the difference between Iraq and Afghanistan, right?
Mm-hmm.
One big difference, demographic, right? Okay. ISIS, the people in Iraq and Syria didn't like ISIS, so it was very easy to get the Iraqi army, which is actually compared to the ANA.
Sure.
I want to start off this too by prefacing this that the ANA or the Afghani National Army is fucking useless.
Oh yeah,
completely reliant on coalition forces to do anything.
I as much as I criticize Biden, he did have a point in his press conference where he said our troops shouldn't have to go over there and die for something their people aren't even willing to die for.
Exactly. And we've been trying to enable them for 10 years now to fight the Taliban themselves. We've given them equipment, training, everything, the means to do so. And they just fucking useless cowards, man. Any engagements would be us fighting the Taliban and them cowering in fear. You know what I mean? Dude, I'm dead serious. It's hard. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but the fucking Taliban were like the Chads in Afghanistan, man. They had a fucking
Taliban.
They literally are, man. So demographic, right, of the enemy,
sure.
Nobody liked ISIS in there. The ISIS was actually like doing really bad shit to the people as well. And then terrain. like Iraq, open desert and everything.
Oh, the mountains. Yeah.
Mountains, a little, there's a reason why no army ever has been able to succeed there. So, like the Taliban, man, people think of the Taliban as like these religious, like extremists, like people can't even separate Al Qaeda from the Taliban.
Right.
Dude, the Taliban is like the fucking small town, like the village, like people that don't live in the city in Afghanistan that fucking hate the United States. And yes, they are devout Muslims, but like, dude, that's like their fucking attitude over there. That's not the main thing of like the main thing is that they united just because they hate being occupied by the fucking United States and England. Sure.
Yeah. So like, and Al Qaeda is more along religious grounds.
Yeah, right? Al Qaeda was, but Al Qaeda wasn't even like wasn't really in Afghanistan. Like a lot of them were in Iraq, a lot of them were in like Syria, and like that. I think that was one of the big reasons why they toppled over the Saddam government, was because he was harboring Al Qaeda, and like, they weren't. He basically the Iraqi government wasn't letting us oust Al Qaeda from their country. So gotcha. We're just like, all right, yeah, fuck you.
So that makes a little bit more sense then, because like I've heard troops talk that were over there that said it didn't matter if we left today or even 20 years from now or 10 years ago, the same thing would have happened just as quickly. Shit.
Yeah. They've been the Taliban are the same people that fought the Russians.
Yep.
The same people that fought the fucking French. You know what I mean? Like, dude, literally the Mujahideen is now the Taliban. Like the older fighters there were the same people that fought the Soviets in the 80s.
They have something that can't be trained, which is devotion and patience.
Yeah.
To just, like,
I think it's more of a resolve, because seriously, man,
those guys, two combined,
those guys like literally would be willing to die just to like kill one American person because they fucking hated us being in their country that much.
Yeah.
Like,
what's crazy is, if you look back, the Soviet Union collapsed about 2 years after going to Afghanistan, after getting out of Afghanistan, excuse me.
I would say it's like it's a foreign policy and kind of like world, everything, like us supporting the Mujahideen, like really worked out kind of in our favor. But like basically what happened after the Mujahideen after they repelled the Soviets was they just kind of started fighting amongst each other, and it just became this chaotic, like nobody was in power there. So the United States looked at that as an opportunity to be like, hey, we could set up a fucking puppet government there. And basically that's what we tried to, but they just were useless, man.
It's the graveyard of empires, they call it that for a reason.
Yeah, dude. The people in Afghanistan do not want to be ruled over by another fucking power. Like,
no,
they would rather be these like tribal fucking warlords fighting amongst themselves and be their own people than fucking be conquered. So
does China go in next?
I think so, dude. It's really funny because I think that there's two possibilities is what can happen with Afghanistan right after this, right? The Taliban's going to break up, and it's going to be what happened after the Mujahideen, where they're all going to fight amongst each other, and it's just going to be like this non-unified region, right?
Yeah.
Or the worst alternative is the like Afghanistan is now going to be united in the fact that they hate fucking the West. Because they've been fighting the West for 20 years, and then they were fighting Russia before that for 10 years before them. So now they're going to be this united power that's sitting on all these raw resources and fucking poppy for heroin and shit. And they're going to be if they can, they're going to export that shit to now their new allies in China.
Yeah.
And now the Talibani government is going to have to be China's diplomatic problem. Yeah. But China doesn't give a fuck, man. No. They'll take all the fucking heroin from Afghanistan, sell them, and then peddle it over to the United States.
That's absolutely what they'll do. And they'll lace it with fentanyl too to save money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay. So I like asking people that have been in the military and over there and stuff like that, because I mean, I don't like, obviously have opinions on it, but so what do you think we should have done? Because I think we're on the same page that we should have gotten out of Afghanistan.
Left after we killed bin Laden.
That's what I think. Yeah.
And not even attempted to set up a fucking puppet government there.
Yeah.
Like, because it wasn't going to work.
That's what I feel. I feel like we went over there with a mission to kill bin Laden and the people responsible for 9/11. And then when we got there, it was kind of like, well, I kind of like it here.
We killed bin Laden 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically our strategy there was we were going to set up and support a foreign, like a puppet state there to let us be able to do whatever the fuck we wanted.
Yeah.
Having control of that region gave us some pretty good things, right? It gave us a fucking a mountain, an easily defended like mountainous region area for that was close to Russia. It controlling there and Iraq gave us 2 entry invasion point like ways to enter Iran, because Iraq, like this is how the region goes. It's like Iraq and then Iran and then Afghanistan is on the other end of Iran. So that would have gave us 2 ways to enter Iran, which they were trying to do, which you remember like 2 years ago when they were trying to stir up stuff with Iran and like give us a reason to go invade them.
Yep.
Which I'm like 90% sure Trump was the entire reason that we didn't actually fucking invade Iran.
Yeah. For all of his craziness, he did serve a purpose.
Yeah, so. I think Trump's foreign policy was probably the only thing that he did good.
Do you know what's crazy to me? And I sorry to cut you off, but it's just I wanted to get it out there because I think it's important. So the media, I want to clarify. When I say the media, the corporate media, I'm referring to like MSNBC, CNN, Fox, even sometimes ABC, shit like that. I'm not talking.
Fox does it just as much as all the other ones.
Yeah,
like let's be honest.
I'm not talking about Channel 7 news you can trust and you know like local newspapers. These are
WBAM.
When I say the media, that's not who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. I wish people would stop playing dumb with that. So the corporate media, with the exception of Fox, has been extremely easy on Joe Biden, right? So let's exclude. So you CNN, ABC, MSNBC, CBS.
We're also talking about like the New York Times,
Huffington Post, stuff like that. Yeah, they've been the corporate press for the most part has been extremely easy on Joe Biden. The only time I have seen them criticize him is when he pulled out of Afghanistan. Now you flip it. The only time I saw these same news channels and mainstream media sources stick up for Trump was when he bombed Syria. So it's almost like the corporate media's sole purpose is to keep the war machine churning. Like that's what it seems like to me if I were on the outside looking in.
If I were a gambling man.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, that's what it seems like. The corporate media serves a purpose. That purpose is to keep the war machine churning for the people that run them, that have investments in these defense contractors.
Yeah, it's because they're CEOs. It's because they're CEOs of those media companies.
Don't get us kicked off. Don't say it. Don't get us kicked off.
It's because no, it's because they have stock in Raytheon and Boeing and shit.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were going a different angle with that. I'm like, don't do it. Don't get us kicked off. They run YouTube too. God damn it.
they have Google, right? Google's CEOs probably have stock in Raytheon and fucking Boeing too, dude.
Yeah,
Dick Cheney did.
Yeah, I mean, Dick Cheney made millions off the Iraq War.
Dick Cheney literally was like a seating like chamber member or some shit of Raytheon. Like that was like a huge controversy about
today. I went through and listened to all the like Toby Keith songs from 2002 and like stuff like that they used as like war propaganda. I just kind of laughed at it. I just sat there and listened to those. Do you remember those?
I do.
The Angry American and shit like that.
Yeah.
Those guys were propaganda machines. It was fucking
I don't even know if they knew that they were too. You know what I mean? Like
country music from like 2001 to 2004 or 5. Country music had unknowingly become an extra arm of the Bush administration. It was fucking nuts.
Yeah, even like under the Obama administration too. Yeah. Like people want to act like Obama was this awesome president, but he was just as much, if not worse. His administration was worse.
Obama's foreign policy was worse than Bush.
Yeah, because when it came to being a war hawk lobby, like a hawk lobby, because dude, they toppled over so many other like Middle Eastern governments, dude. Like Bush toppled over Iraq, but like the Obama administration toppled over
Syria, Libya,
Yemen. Yeah, they supported that fucking shit going on with the Saudi Arabia, basically.
I mean, everyone looks back at warmongering and neoconservatism and they think of Bush, which rightfully so, because that's really what kicked it off in the 2000s, right? What really kicked it. I'm not talking you know, because I know Bush Sr. and Clinton and Reagan had some stuff going on, but George W. Bush really just kicked it off, right? Like that was the big thing. So they made a big deal. We're going to Iraq. Saddam's got weapons of mass destruction. Bin Laden attacked us. We're going to get him in Afghanistan, blah, blah, blah. Obama did some shit behind the scenes. You know, it wasn't as big of a deal. You'd hear about the shit going on in Syria and Libya, and then, oh, look, we got 5,000 troops there. Where the fuck did that come from? Oh, now we got people in the Horn of Africa. Like, what the fuck?
Remember when they were like trying to justify toppling over the Gaddafi's government?
Yeah,
like,
who was, I mean, that basically led to the creation of ISIS. Gaddafi was, and by no means a good guy, but God, he was better than the alternative.
I don't know if it necessarily led to the creation of ISIS, because Gaddafi was in like northern Africa, wasn't he?
Libya,
it
might have been
northern
yeah.
Africa.
Not necessarily. I'm more speaking of Assad in Syria. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Because the rebels, I remember hearing, we're funding the rebels to fight Assad. We're giving the rebels the weapons, blah blah blah. Then all of a sudden, hey, we're giving weapons to Assad to fight the rebels. I'm like, what's going on? When did this start?
Yeah, basically, what happened with that was, we were funding that, and we didn't realize that the rebels that we were funding were splinter factions with the nut jobs from Al Qaeda, basically.
Yeah.
So like ISIS, the reason they were called they were called the Israeli. The what does ISIS stand for? Something.
It's like Islamic State of Iraq and Syria.
Yeah. Iraq and Syria. Yeah. But they were basically like, so here's Iraq, right? It's kind of like this shaped.
Yeah.
And then Syria's like right here.
Yeah.
And so like this, right? ISIS was right here.
Yeah.
And like the western or eastern Syria and northwestern Iraq. And they started pushing all of the Iraqi government that we had put in powers back down south towards like Baghdad and like Kuwait and shit. That's why like Mosul, which is like Iraq's like northernmost city, was like the capital basically of ISIS.
Yeah.
Because it's like right in the smack center of there. So basically they gained all this power because they had this funding, and then the Iraqi military, they started whooping on the Iraqi military, and they took all their fucking weapons and their vehicles that we left them and shit. Basically what the Taliban did.
Yeah.
And then but you know where ISIS really fucking jacked up though was they started conducting terrorist attacks in like Western Europe and like America and shit. Because remember, ISIS actually was like their ISIS-linked suicide bombers. Like one fucking blew up an Ariana Grande concert. Remember?
Yeah, and
like,
wasn't the guy that shot up the nightclub, the gay club in Florida, wasn't he ISIS affiliated or something like that?
They were on, dude. I was so crazy like being online during that time, because like you would see people like in Facebook groups like actively recruiting people to ISIS.
Yeah.
And like so much so that like these ISIS like these like stinky fucking pages would have to be like no ISIS propaganda or ISIS recruiting. That would like result in immediate ban. It's like that's fucking nuts.
Twitter
man.
Followers from ISIS recruiters.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
They searched for keywords, because I remember I had gotten into a Twitter spout years ago with some guy that was basically saying all Muslims are terrorists, and I'm like, well, that's not fucking true. Like that's no, not all Muslims are terrorists. There's more similarities and differences between Islam and Christianity. And next thing I know, I got ISIS recruiters. Like, what the fuck? Like, no,
man.
My beard doesn't grow that long, motherfucker. What do you want me to do? Like,
ISIS is like a militant, and even Al Qaeda is basically like a militant fucking version of the Westboro Baptist Church.
Really? Yeah. Like if the Westboro Baptist Church had the balls to strap a suicide vest on, essentially.
If they weren't in the biggest security state in the world, they would be like Iran, like ISIS. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Those guys are fucking pussies, though. I don't think they don't want the heat. They're just lawyers and they sue everybody.
Yeah, for real. That's how it works here in the United States, man. You can't even fart on a fucking text message without the FBI hearing about it.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly.
Without the FBI smelling it and knowing what you ate for lunch that day.
So I guess it's kind of on the same subject. Did you watch that girl on Rogan, the North Korean girl with the big titties, Yeonmi Park?
With the big titties, yeah.
I mean,
North Korean girl, yeah.
Number one, those have got to be fake, because there's no way she came from a malnourished country and grew those.
Probably.
She said she had She had a husband here, so it's probably one of those dudes that like marries the girls that barely speaks English and gets her a tit job and knocks her up. And
she escaped North Korea too when
she
was
did.
like a teenager.
I'm not doubting her. I don't want to doubt her story. Now I know there are some inconsistencies to it.
People, I was in a reserve unit with a girl that escaped North Korea when she was a teenager, man.
Oh, really?
Her fucking story from escaping is fucking nuts, man.
Dude,
yeah.
Those people, like people from like war-torn and dictatorship countries, they love America more than Americans. Like
they do,
because like they've lived in actual shitholes. You know what I mean? Like Ali Kareem. I was driving with him to Denver. Ali Kareem may be one of the last fans of George W. Bush in this country.
Dude, yeah. I love Ali, man, because so Ali was a fucking interpreter for us, for the Marines. Yeah. He was like in Fallujah, dude. Like that, like where he was one of the biggest battles of the Iraq War. Like when we were pushing Al Qaeda out of Iraq. So yeah, he's seen some shit, man.
Have I talked on the show about his interpreter that he knew that like got kicked out, got fired?
I don't think so.
Because the guy thought it was funny to play pranks on these people, so they were looking for information, and none of these people spoke English. So the guy went up to him and said in whatever the Iraqi or whatever the language was, Arabic. Yeah, he told them that the Americans say if you say a word, they're going to detain you in a camp. So none of them would talk. And Ali had to figure out what happened, and they like fired the guy and shit and like kicked him out. What a fucking dumbass.
Dude, another big problem with Arabic interpreters is they would get guys from like northern Iraq or northern Africa, or like even like like Western Western like Middle East, or like the closer to like fucking like Israel, like those countries like Jordan and shit. Yeah. And Arabic that they speak in those different countries is like really regionalized.
Yeah.
Like, so there's certain words that mean certain
Spanish
things in one place. Yeah. So like if you got a guy from Morocco who's saying some shit that like like raise your hands, but like how this was a story that I heard from our interpreter when I was over in Kuwait. So our interpreter was Kuwaiti. And he was telling us this story about like when he was in Iraq, like there was a guy from Morocco that fucking like some crazy mix up with the words basically led to this Iraqi family being mistaken for terrorists and getting shot and killed.
Jesus Christ.
Because he thought he was telling them to like raise their hands or something like that, but like hands and like the word that the Moroccans use for hands was like the same word that the Iraqis use for like fucking like goats or something. I don't know. It's not some situation like that where just basically when they were clearing the buildings, the Iraqi people in there were just super confused and like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then they just that Moroccan guy was just like, they're not cooperating, shoot them, and they shot him and killed him.
Damn.
So yeah, crazy how like little inconsistencies like that are like can be the difference between somebody living and dying over there in a crazy situation like that.
Right. So anyway, the North Korean refugee with the heavies, right? She,
with the mommy milkers.
That's right. I refuse to say that. It's one of the things I won't say. But she, so I've read some inconsistencies to her story. It's like she claimed to cross a mountain, and then it was a desert, and then it turned out there was no mountain or desert where she was. So I'm not denying that, like, obviously North Korea is a terrible place, right? We're not gonna dispute that.
There's a lot of mountains over there, and like
there are
peninsula. So,
but there were other inconsistencies and stuff like that. How unlikely would it be that she's propaganda for the CIA and she may not even know it? They may be funding the people that are funding her because they want to go to war with North Korea. I mean, what better way to do it than to find a cute girl from North Korea to come on Joe Rogan and all these other news channels and cry about the horrors of it, which honestly I have no reason to doubt her. They may be completely true, but to get people riled up and like, fuck, we need to take it to these assholes. Like, let's do it, and get public support behind the war with North Korea.
Here's the thing about North Korea is, and this is something that the United States, like fucking all the generals and I'm guarantee the president knows this, is that if you go to war in North Korea, you go to war with China.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know that because that's happened before.
Yep.
So I don't think the United States is really too keen on getting into like a war with China.
Yeah.
North Korea is just a puppet state of China. It's a
Yeah.
buffer. It's a buffer for China. It's beneficial for China to keep North Korea there like that because it's a buffer between them and our South Korea.
It is, but at the same, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's the only reason that we support South Korea is because it's a tactical advantage to keep an invasion point for China there.
Yeah. I just wonder how much, I mean, if the US were to just unprovoked invade North Korea, obviously China would have their back. But North Korea to China kind of strikes me as like that friend you have and you keep him around, but you're not going to take a punch for him. You know what I mean? He pisses somebody off at the bar.
They did that with the Korean conflict, man.
My thing is like if they got stupid and Kim Jong-un like decided to shoot a nuke at Guam, I don't think China's going to step in the way. Like I think they're like, all right, you know what? Not worth the war with the US. Like
I don't think they would. I don't think they would because honestly, China doesn't want to get into a conventional war with the West either.
Neither one does.
Yeah, because like we know that whoever wins, like a lot of people would die, and
it ends humanity as we know it. Yeah.
So. Like China wouldn't let North Korea like use a nuke, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
North Korea answers to China. So
yeah, kind of like Israel and the US. Yeah.
Yeah, according to the nut jobs, it's the other way around. But
yeah, no shit. We won't get it. We've already been over. There's a few things that'll get us kicked off YouTube, and that's one. That rabbit hole is one of them.
But honestly, it is kind of true. Like, yeah, Israel kind of answers to the US. Like that's our one of our footholds in the Middle East is Israel. So
surprisingly, we've been able to hold that one. So it's like and
I kind of Iraq now, like Iraq's got it kind of under control over there right now. Like,
Iraq you haven't heard a lot out of there. I mean, there's like guys like Ali and them could never return. You know? But
from my experience there, a lot of Iraqis like the United States too, because like Saddam was kind of like people were really mixed about Saddam, like. But before, like basically Iraq went to war with Iran and like there was all the fucking UN sanctions against them, like Iraq was doing really fucking good under Saddam, man. Like the country was doing really well. He was he was nationalized the oil there, so they were making a ton of money like that. I read, this might be horseshit, but I read that he was considered to win a Nobel Peace Prize because like Saddam was back in the 70s because he had the literacy rate in Iraq like fucking the highest, like one of the highest in the world.
It's what's his face in was it Chile? Pinochet? He was the same way. Guy was a fucking murderous dictator, but he kicked the communists out and their literacy rate boomed, their economics, their medical advancements, everything boomed.
When
but
people
he
say
just happened to be murderous. Like
when people say that Saddam was murderous, what they're referring to is that Saddam used gas weapons on the Kurds.
Same with Assad.
It's a different ethnic. So the Kurds, man, fucking, you should ask Ali about what he thinks about the Kurds. From what I understand is Arabs don't like Kurds, man. They're a completely different ethnic group that like just fucking showed up in like that region that they think is Kurdistan, and we're just like, this is Kurdistan now, and they're completely culturally different from Arabs, and like Arabs do not like Kurds, man. So like fucking what happened was
there's too much cheese in them for me.
Yeah, right. But like what happened was Iraq was in a war with Iran in like the 70s, right? This was a pretty big conflict, and like there was the Iraq and Iran were like shooting fucking nerve gas at each other and shit. Like it was pretty crazy.
Sure.
But Iran, which this is like when Reagan like got in trouble for selling missiles to Iran.
Right.
So that's kind of like the time frame there. Iran armed a Kurdish insurgency against Iraq and northern Iraq.
Okay.
So, like this was like an ethnic insurgency against like Saddam's government. So basically what he did was he just like the Kurdish like insurgency, like fucking stronghold, which whatever place it was, they just used gas weapons on them.
Okay.
And that, is a big
Geneva
no-no.
Convention. Yeah,
it's a big no because they didn't, they gassed like civilians and like shit that were living.
You're supposed to nuke them like we did in Japan.
Hey, You're supposed to go in there and fucking, kick in doors and shit like the US did.
And then kill them with drone strikes.
Yeah.
Well, so
like,
from what? Oh, sorry.
Well, I was gonna say there's like some fucking Saddam like sympathizers in the Middle East that just were like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have used that gas, but like the Kurds weren't their people, I mean? That's what they think. I'm not justifying it, but that's what they say.
From what I've heard, I mean, Saddam, like there were people there that hated him, whatever, but his sons were menaces. Like
maybe
I've heard
like
from
like Biden or like Biden's son.
Hunter Biden. I would say Hunter Biden on crack, but Hunter Biden is on crack. So like Hunter Biden and like Russian horse steroids. Like I've heard stories about like from Ali actually. Uday, I think the one that was the like most.
We killed the fuck out of Uday, didn't we?
Uday walked into a dude's wedding and shot him and then took his wife in front of the whole wedding ceremony.
Damn.
Like
dude,
they run the
nuts.
Shit like fucking cartels over there. Like it's fucking crazy how out of control those guys were, and they just did whatever the fuck they want because what you're gonna do anything. I mean,
their dad is the dictator. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're just gonna get whacked if you try to do anything about it. So it's like, what the hell can you do? But yeah, so that's what I've heard about. It's the sons were the menaces, and they were.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
The U.S. fucked Uday up, from what I understand.
Well, they like captured him and gave the like fucking corpse to the Iraqis, and they like fucking cut that thing up into like little pieces and fed it to pigs.
Over there, they won't fuck around like with Gaddafi when they like stuck a gun up his ass and stuff like that. They don't fuck around over there. There's no like, oh, we're gonna give him lethal injection, but we're gonna have a lawsuit over the type of drugs being used, and then he won't be executed for 25 years, and then he just dies in jail. No, they cut your fucking head off. Whether that's right or wrong, they handle business. Like there's.
And I mean, like it's we have to be really careful as like Americans, right?
Sure.
Being like, their way is the wrong way to do things, you know what I mean? Because it's like that's their fucking culture, you know what I mean? That's their thing.
There are things they do that are wrong, like to women and gays, and
you know what I mean. But they would say the same thing about us, about like the way that we fucking like do shit with like the masks with like churches would be incredibly taboo over there. Like they have taboos for us.
Well, I'm more talking. So there's a difference between taboos and human rights violations. Throwing a guy off a roof because he's gay that's a little bit more extreme than we had a church service differently.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I don't know. They're a lot more like obviously they're a lot more culturally conservative over there.
For sure.
So like the fact that we have like open fucking heroin use and stuff in this country is like we're a laughing stock. There's a reason they call us like infidels. Like you know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, I think that might be better as like drug use and pornography and stuff like that. What they would consider like drains and music, like some of the music and movies and stuff like that would be what they consider to be like drains over here.
Yeah, exactly.
So I understand. We definitely don't have everything.
The fact
right
that
here.
that we let like kids do drag shows and stuff. Yeah, they'd be like,
No, well, I've heard the little boy slave stuff over there.
That's in Afghanistan.
Oh, that's Afghanistan.
The Afghanis aren't Arabs. Like the Middle East ends with Iran. So like after you get past there, that's like stands.
Are they Persians then, or?
Well, Iran is Persian, but technically Iran is the Middle East. But like they consider like the farthest Middle East is like Iran. That's like the cutoff.
So what's Afghanistan? Are they Arabs then, or?
No, they're not Arab. They're the stands.
They're just all okay. I didn't know if there was.
I think there's a word for them. Like there's like their ethnicity, like Turkic is kind of like a lot of like the people that live in like Turkmenistan and like they're kind of like that ethnic, the same ethnicity that the Uyghurs are like.
The Uyghurs, well that's how John Cena apologized to China, was choke slamming a Uyghur Muslim. So.
Yeah. Like that whole region. Yeah, I did. No, he gave him the elbow drop. That's what he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like they're kind of like the same like ethnicity kind of there, like.
Yeah. That's well, I think the lesson we learned from this is Ron Paul done told us and we didn't listen. So
yeah, for real. It's so funny because like, dude, even back in 2001, like people were like, dude, it's a waste of time to be over there. I feel like
I think a lot of people got duped because going to war with Afghanistan was kind of packaged in with going to kill bin Laden. Like, after 9/11, There was an assault. Anyone, so I'm sorry, after 9/11, anyone who did not want to go kill bin Laden and the people responsible for it was wrong, right? That person, he needed to be killed for that. He needed to be brought to justice. The people with him needed to be killed and brought to justice. Anyone who disagreed with that, I hate to speak in black and white, was wrong. The problem was eternal war with Afghanistan was kind of slipped in with that, and they threw the bill in there. Hey, we're going to war in Afghanistan. So this fucking guy is. You have a lot of congressmen, Ron Paul included, who voted for it. Like, yeah, let's go get bin Laden. We need to do this now. And then the Afghanistan thing just kind of stuck, and it was backdoored in, and that's how we got fucked. I don't feel like a lot of people would have voted for war in Afghanistan.
Well, I think basically what happened there is that Afghanistan was a lawless power vacuum.
Yeah.
It was all these warlords, like bandit warlords, essentially fucking fighting with each other for like regional control.
Yeah.
No one person had control of that entire country. And actually Afghanistan is really regionally diverse too. Like there's mountains and there's deserts and like there's fucking jungle shit. Like But so what our strategy was we're going to set up a fucking government that's friendly with us, because probably one of the fucking warlords that was there was just like, yeah, we'll take American money. Yeah. So they propped up this one fucking state, and all the other ones were like, hey, fuck no, dude. And basically the Taliban were just free, like Afghani freedom fighters, man. Mm-hmm. They're fucking young guys and old mujahideen and their sons.
They were the Boogaloo boys.
Dude, it's basically
Afghanistan.
They basically were. Like, they really were, man. Like the Afghanis, like people want to frame it as like, oh, they're like the Taliban were these crazy like Islamic militant fight. No, dude, like, yes, they were fucking militants that just like that happened to be Muslim. That was the center of their culture. But they saw themselves as freedom fighters, man. They saw us as an evil occupying empire. Yeah. That they were just another one to fucking scratch off their books that they were going to win by a war of attrition. Like,
literally a war of attrition. Took the words out of my mouth. As shitty as it sounds, I am happy that this happened for two reasons. Number one, we can stop hearing COVID all day. Number two, people can see what an actual fucking insurrection looks like, not boomers trespassing in the Capitol building, committing acts of petty theft. Like, we can see what an action, you see those guys posing with guns because they just killed all the people in charge. That's what an actual insurrection looks like. Not some guy stealing the speaker's podium where one person got shot. Like, you know, like they were there,
like the people that they were killing, they considered enemies because they were supporting the United States. It'd be like when the fucking like the French people like took back control over France after the Nazis were there and they started murking all the fucking Nazi sympathizers. You know what I mean? That's basically what that was, because like, dude, we committed tons of war crimes over there in that country. If you go watch Restrepo, man, there's literally like that that video that everyone's like, oh, that's such a cool documentary about Afghanistan. They have a documented case where the captain called an airstrike on an Afghani village and they showed like kids with blown off limbs and shit in that movie. Like, Jesus Christ. The captain called a fucking airstrike on an Afghani village and killed kids.
We commit war crimes everywhere. We commit war crimes against our own people.
Exactly.
Throughout history. I mean, like the Trail of Tears, fucking Waco, Ruby, like those are all war crimes. You know,
I'm just saying, we weren't the good guys over in Afghanistan, man. Like, we really weren't.
No, not even close. Like, and not to say that the Taliban were good guys either, but you know, like, it's
not so black and white like that.
It's never black and white. Nothing is ever very rarely is something ever black and white, you know,
at least like in politics. Yeah.
In politics, exactly. But Ron Paul done told us. So he's been saying it for years. And like
the Taliban saw themselves as like fucking patriotic freedom fighters, man, that were resisting the aggression of the Western empires. Did
you see that female reporter in CNN?
Yeah, dude, I had to wear the fucking garb.
Yeah, it was like 3 days prior she was just dressed normally, and then like in street clothes, and then after that she was wearing fucking like hijab. Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she said something, everyone was dunking on her, right? Because she said something along the lines of, they're saying death to America, but they're not being very confrontational, and everyone was dunking on her. And I get how that's kind of sounds like a dumb thing to say, but here's my thing, man. This is a reporter that's in the thick of shit. She's in Afghanistan, right? She's not comparing January 6th to the Holocaust. She's not writing BuzzFeed articles about which sushi roll orders are microaggressions. Like this is this is what an actual journalist is supposed to be doing, and she's doing it. And I don't think it's right to dunk on her because I can understand what she's saying. They're chanting death to America, but they're not getting in her face. They're just chanting it. Like if they were truly, like if they were being confrontational, they'd be shoving her around. She wouldn't even be being recorded. She'd be getting sexually assaulted.
There's fucking Antifa people that do that shit in America. You know what I mean? Like,
the counter example of that is the guy from CNN. The mostly peaceful protests where there's like explosions in the background, buildings are on fire.
I mean, I'm very simple. I'm telling you, man, I'm super sympathetic of like Afghanis because like I know their fucking plight and I know what we've done. I've fucking seen what we've done over there.
Close enough to it. You've been close enough.
Yeah, I wasn't in Afghanistan. Like, dude, one of my best friends here in the army.
Tim Locklear was. It'd be interesting to get him back on.
Yeah, man. I have tons of friends that have been there. I was supposed to go there one time, but then shit happened. But yeah, I've been to the Middle East before. You know what I mean? Like, I've been over in that region, and I know what we're like over there. I know what we've fucking done to those people.
Yeah.
Like they have every right to fucking chant death to America, man. We were fucking the evil empire over there for 20 fucking years.
We were Russia, and a lot of people don't want to admit it.
Yeah, people don't want to admit that we were the bad guys over there. And it's like, well, the sooner you realize that, the sooner we can not vote in politicians that are gonna do that shit again.
Yeah. I think pulling out, or excuse me, I think the US needs to have a boogeyman. Because it sells, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think COVID is an adequate boogeyman. So it'll be interesting to see where they go next. It might be going back to the Taliban.
Dude, I hope I think what might happen if the Taliban really does, like, if it ends up like ISIS where they're conducting like terrorist attacks here, which I don't think they're going to, because I don't think that's how the Taliban is.
They just want to run their shit.
They want to be in their own. When in the history of this entire war, even in the beginning, was there Afghani linked terrorist attacks in the United States? Like there really wasn't. There was ISIS ones.
Yeah, it was Al Qaeda and ISIS. Yeah, it wasn't the Taliban. Yeah, the Taliban.
And most of those guys were Saudi Arabian that conducted that attack. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So like Al Qaeda wasn't a national linked to Afghanistan. You know what I mean? Like. People need to get that through their heads that the Taliban is just the name of like the Afghani fucking rebels, basically. That they have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Taliban might even be like Farsi for like freedom fighters. There's some. I'm not 100% on that. Don't quote me, but you know what I mean. Like,
do you remember when they were trying to we were probably like freshmen, sophomores in high school, the Coney thing?
Oh, the Coney 2012.
Coney 2012, dude, that was fucking US. That was CIA propaganda. The whole thing was a psyop to invade Africa. That was like, you know who blew that up was Alex fucking Jones back, before he went totally nuts. He was going through. He had a girl on from where was it? It was one of those. It wasn't Kenya.
Was it Swaziland or something?
No, fuck. It was a country in Africa. But he had a girl on who was from there. And she said, and she was on there talking about.
Oh, it's the Congo, wasn't it?
Fuck, now I gotta look it up. It's
I'll look it up.
So she was on there, and she was talking about how Coney had the LRA, Lord's Resistance Army or whatever, hadn't caused issues in over 15 years where they were at.
Uganda.
That's where it was. Yeah, they hadn't caused issues in Uganda. Most people have just assumed Coney is dead. And like, even when they were a thing, they weren't really that bad. And, the whole thing was blown out of proportion. And then Alex Jones did some of the research because it was a nonprofit. And it turned out that a lot of the people donating to this Coney 2012 charity to push this were like defense contractors and shit. And it was or people that were affiliated with them. And Alex Jones blew the lid off of it. And it was like, hey, they're using this to invade Uganda. They want to go into Africa for oil and diamonds. This is like, this is U.S. government CIA propaganda to try and kick off a third fucking war, because that was before we had meddled in everyone else. A third war in Africa. And the guy right after that, they pulled it away because Alex Jones started going viral for that. and they started pulling back, and then the guy got off his psych meds and just he was like masturbating in public and shit, the guy that ran the charity, and it turned out he was taking like 95% of the money to like go on vacation and buy cars with. The whole thing just collapsed on its own. But if not for Alex Jones, we very well would have been in a third fucking endless war in Africa for oil and diamonds.
Well, that's one of the things, is that the United States kind of is in a shadow war in Africa, which I actually did take part in. Actually, I have firsthand experience with that. So, but that's a lot less intense than like Afghanistan was, because the African militaries, at least the ones I worked with, were actually fucking hardcore about fighting fucking insurgents there,
right?
And we're like proud to do it because they actually liked their fucking where they lived and stuff.
Yeah,
mad respect to the shout out Kenyan Army. You guys are fucking badasses. I love you guys. But yeah, we've been there.
That's
for
where
really
Obama's from. They have to be
more. You know what? More of being in Africa is more to counter Chinese expansion there.
Sure, I believe
because
that.
the Chinese are all over Africa, man. Basically raping that continent of all its like coal and fucking raw materials like iron and shit. Like They were literally fucking like 20 miles from us, building fucking ports to export coal from Kenya.
Yeah.
Like and everywhere else. Like that's what they were doing.
Yeah. It's how long till the US ends up like Afghanistan, where we just have a bunch of warlords competing for power?
I don't know. I don't think that'll happen. Texas will probably take control. You know, they'll be the 10.
I honestly, man, I don't know. Like we've talked about it before. You know, I think I'm quoting Ronald Reagan on this. I don't remember. It was during the Cold War. He said that if the world were to face an extraterrestrial threat, like an alien invasion, right? That he believed the U.S. and the Soviet Union could put aside their differences to come together and fight it.
Probably. They kind of did that with the Nazi Germany. So.
Right. I don't know in 2021 if the American left and right could put aside their differences to fight it. I think everyone would be arguing about the best way to fight it, and some people would think the aliens weren't even real, and I don't know if the left and the right in this country. I don't want to sound. I'm not a pessimistic person, and I wasn't up until a year ago. I don't see it getting better.
It kind of happened for a little while. In fucking the early 2000s when 9/11 happened, dude, everybody in in the early 2000s.
But yeah, but we weren't as divided 20 years ago as we are today.
I don't know, man. Like in the 90s had some pretty crazy fucking shit happen, like the domestic terrorism, you know what I mean? Like there were bomber and the OKC bombing and shit. Like
there were some crazies, but social media wasn't as prevalent, and I do believe in group polarization, and I think social media has driven a lot more people off cliffs than would have been possible 20, 30 years ago. And I just don't know. And like, it concerns, I don't know. Like I could definitely see Texas seceding before the end of the decade. States like Texas, California, I could see seceding before the end of the decade. Maybe not Florida, but I think DeSantis in Florida, given what he's had to put up with, has actually done a good job. And I think he could be president in 3 years.
Think so.
I think, I'm not sure, but you know,
Nebraska and Iowa would have to, and Kansas would all have to, and Missouri would all have to set aside their differences between the Midwest coalition. maybe they'd allow the Dakotas in there.
Who would, if us in the Dakotas, you know, Nebraska, the Dakotas,
culturally, all the cities and everything in like the Midwest are like really similar.
Pretty similar, yeah. Who would be president of that? Do you think Pete Ricketts would make himself president?
No, probably. What's like the
biggest... it'd be that girl in South Dakota, Kristi Noem or whatever.
I mean, you got to think like the politics and like Iowa's like a blue state, you know what I mean?
They're purple.
Yeah.
Trump won Iowa.
Nebraska's honestly kind of purple too, because like
Omaha,
where Omaha and Lincoln are blue, and like that's like fucking 80% of the state's population there. Like,
yeah, Nebraska's fairly purple. Shout out to Scott running for governor, though. I want to give him a shout out. Scott Zimmerman. Dude, Scott is actually fucking trying to be governor. He's not running your fringe. It's gonna be interesting. He showed me, man. He's getting donations daily.
Yeah, he's on the news, man. I saw that.
Was he?
Cool. Yeah, he was on the local, like the news in like Lincoln or some shit.
Oh, okay.
Man.
He didn't show me that. Well, no, Scott's like running. Like he showed me. He's getting
Yeah.
donations every day. He's getting like he's got like official logos. It's not some jerk off that made it on Microsoft Paint, right? Like he's hired people to make logos for him and shit and t-shirts. You know, he's traveling around the state. He's not like going to farmers market in Omaha on a Saturday and calling that campaigning while he hands out flyers. Like he's holding events at bars and restaurants around the state here to the Panhandle. Like he's actually trying, you know, and it's like, is he going to win? It's a fucking uphill battle as a third party. We'll just put it that. Well, I'll put it at that. But
yeah,
this is the first.
Plus Pete Ricketts has a real big He's not running. He can't. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it's gonna be kind of open because like Pete Ricketts just kind of had like the fucking stranglehold because he was all buddy with fucking Tom Osborne and he fucking. I mean, to Pete Ricketts' credit, he was really good with like the farmers and shit on like Western Nebraska and stuff. And I will give him credit too. I think he handled the flooding situation like a good leader.
He handled the flooding well. Honestly, I think he handled COVID well too.
Yeah, he was. I mean, because he was out there fucking flying around in the helicopters with the National Guard, like actually being there and stuff. And like,
I have some qualms with Ricketts about the marijuana and the gambling.
But he's just he's a boomer.
He's a boomer concern. I think he might actually be Gen X, but he is a boomer con. But I honestly, I think he's handled federal government overreach well from the Biden administration, basically telling him, fuck off. We're not going to enforce any of your gun laws. I think he handled COVID well. I know a lot of people give him shit, but that's because a lot of people are, as I call them, branch Covidians or the masked people, where COVID's their whole personality. He's like, look, I'm not going to shut the fucking state down. If cities want to shut down, that's fine. You can let them do that. But I've refused to shut the state down. I'm not going to do that. And he held strong on that. And honestly, Nebraska didn't get hit that bad by COVID as compared to neighboring states.
Like, we really did compared to like Kansas and Iowa and stuff. Yeah, I think that the Nebraska handled it pretty well. And Nebraska usually handles a lot of that stuff pretty well. You know what I mean?
It's usually, we usually just, I mean,
everybody in Omaha and like in Nebraska wants to like fucking raise hell and be so dramatic about everything that happens over there, but like nothing really happens there.
No.
The most significant thing that happened there was the flooding in the most recent time. You know what I mean? And like, that was pretty fucking nuts.
I have my qualms with Pete Ricketts, but I don't think he has been that bad of a governor.
I because you know me, I give politicians credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
I think you can only gig a politician on like one or two of like the things that they do.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you could criticize the fuck out of them for it, but like, I don't think that makes them a bad politician.
No.
If, like, you know what I mean? Like,
no. I'm not one of those that all politicians are corrupt and I think there's good ones and there's bad ones. I think, and I don't think their party really matters all that much. I think
no, not really.
there's like that Larry Elder guy that I was talking about in California, like hardline libertarian that's running as a Republican. He may actually win governor of California. He's the front runner right now.
That'd be cool. I know a lot of Californians are pretty fucking over the California governor because of the whole shit that happened with COVID too. You know, like
where he shut everything down and then he's like every winery is forced to close except the one he owns, and then he's having like maskless dinners at people's house or at restaurants and shit. And then you have Cuomo, who I called him.
Cuomo's out of the fuck. He resigned, dude. Fuck that guy.
He's gone. You know why he resigned is because he knew there was more on him, right? Like there was more than fucking.
Of course there was. He's a New York governor, man. Of course he's
say it. He's a New York guinea. It's okay. I'm not perverted. Is he Italian? I'm Italian. Yeah. Cuomo. Oh fuck yeah. You didn't see him on there. He's like, come over, we'll make sauce. Like, he's Italian. He's fucking a wannabe stereotype. No, I do you watch Sopranos at all? You ever see that show?
Yeah, I've seen parts of it.
So I called throughout the whole COVID thing when Cuomo was cracking the whip on everybody. I was calling him Tony Soprano. That was wrong. It turned out he was Ralph Cifaretto. Okay, and I don't know if you know who Ralph is.
No, I know who like Ralph's some of the main characters are. But
fucking pervert scumbag that like beats.
He's the gay dude, right?
No.
He wasn't the first season that like is hitting on the one construction worker guy. That's like
no, he's not gay. He's into like getting fucked with a strap on, but he's not gay. But yeah, he's the one. He dated Tony's sister, and she kicked him out of the house and shit like that. And he beat the stripper to death. Yeah, Cuomo was Ralph the whole fucking time. He wasn't Tony Soprano. So that's
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that governor of New York is a corrupt fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, everybody fucking hated Cuomo too. Like,
yeah, but he
man.
kept getting reelected in like a landslide. That's what was weird. And it's like, you know why he stepped down? It was number one, because there was more on him. I thought it was funny that he said, "I'm not perverted, I'm just Italian." That was hilarious to me.
He said that.
Yeah, he said, because he's like, "I'm Italian. That's what we do. We hug and kiss and blah." I'm like,
we hug and kiss and we touch the titties.
He's like, because I read the accusations and some of them weren't that bad. Like it was like really, really. But he
if you're going to try to take down a governor, though, you got to bring up every time he farted in the grocery store. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what it tells me. There was much worse that hadn't come out, and he knew it, and he was being blackmailed with it, and he knew that going down for sexual abuse or for sexual misconduct was much better than the nursing home genocide that he was about to go down for. And the sooner he got out of the public eye, the better. And he's like, look, I wouldn't even be surprised if he brought these sexual misconduct allegations up himself to avoid that. He's like, look,
probably got all this money stolen from New York taxpayers anyway. So
he's gonna start a podcast with his brother, like Meatball Talk or something.
He probably like used a bunch of public funds and invested in companies in his name and shit. He's probably set for life, man.
Yeah. Well, his brother is on CNN, Chris Cuomo. Have you seen his meltdown?
No, because I don't watch anything to do with CNN.
It wasn't on CNN. It was like a cell phone video. He freaked out because somebody accidentally called him Fredo. And Fredo, you know who that is, right? Like Fredo's from The Godfather. Oh, Fredo was a character.
It was just fucking Italian.
No, it's not. But he said it was. I've never heard that. I've heard every Italian slur. I've been called all of them by my friends. I think it's funny, by the way. You guys should keep doing it. But someone called him Fredo because they thought that was his name. And Fredo is like a pussy in The Godfather, right? Like he was a coward. And he freaks out and he's like, calling an Italian American Fredo is worse than calling a black person the N-word. He's just like, okay, buddy.
All right,
buddy. That's the hill you want to die on. I've been called a lot, but I've never been called Fredo before. So like,
I've never even heard of that before, man.
No. Like we're one of the you can come on here and you can say Guinea Wap Dago and we won't get kicked off YouTube. But that's one of the most common
it's not a racial.
It's
not a racial slur. It's an ethnic slur. And
yeah,
you can
it's
get
like
away
Mick.
with ethnic slurs.
It's like Mick.
Kraut or fucking Mick or
Mick, Kraut, Guinea. Yeah, those are okay. You can say shit like that. So it's like, well, yeah.
You can't say chink though. That's like because that's not a white. Because Chinese is an ethnicity. It's not a race.
Yeah.
So it's an ethnic slur. Like gook is one for Koreans. You know, you can't say those, but you can say all the European ones.
Let me list all the words that'll get us kicked off YouTube. Okay, let's fuck them. Who gives a shit? They're not gonna come for us. That
I'm
reminds
not calling somebody, and I'm just explaining.
You're just using it in reference, right? It's context.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the King of the Hill episode where they meet Khan, and he's like explaining how he's from Laos. And Hank's
like, are you Chinese or Japanese?
Are you Chinese or Japanese?
Chinese isn't a race, dude. It's an ethnicity.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's exactly.
It's like being Polish. You know?
Yeah, it's not a race. It's an ethnicity. Yeah. It's white. White. And for the record, Italians are not white or Latino. They are Mediterranean. So I just want to.
They're fucking white, man.
Depends how deep you want to get into it.
Spaniards trying to say that they're Latino. It's like, no, motherfucker, you guys are white.
Say it in Spanish.
Yeah.
Barcelona.
Vosotros.
That always pissed me off in high school Spanish class was vosotros. Like I had all the shit down and then they introduced this shit called vosotros and I'm like, get this fucking bullshit out of here.
Dude, they don't even teach it in like schools here, man. You know what's really funny is when I hear, like Luka Doncic, how he speaks like fucking really good Spanish from playing in Spanish league when he was a young teenager.
Yeah.
Like hearing him talk Spanish, he talks it like a Spaniard. So he does the lisp and he says like ice. Yeah, he conjugates like it's good to be here, like con vosotros. Like he says that shit. Like
people from Spain are different. I remember I used to have in my old job this old lady that would come in, and you probably know her too, actually. And she would come in and she sounded fucking Russian, right? She sounded thick. She talked like this. And then she comes in one time and she's uno, dos, tres. And she was from Spain, full-blooded Spanish. I'm like, what the fuck? Like that.
Spanish people are just white, man. Just fucking white
literally.
people.
Yeah, like for reals. So we just did an hour. I think we should peace out now.
Deuces, everyone. Learn some stuff. Hopefully, you guys learn some stuff about the Middle East on here from like some dudes that have no idea what they're talking about.
That's right. Peace the fuck out.
Deuces, everybody.
See ya.